Cherry Blush Roses, Crazy Quilting and Beyond. We're nearing completion on our challenge project, and today is the day to bring all the elements together on that central block and put our bird motif and our branch of flowers together. I can't wait to show you. I did a little bit of embellishing on the stem. I took that pale pink leaf trim. I used a gold Sharpie marker, and then I used a green Copic marker to give it some color, and it adds just the right accent. Now it's going to be a perfect home for our little rayon flower blossoms. I was hoping to use some of the fabric leaves that I made, but I used them all in the corner motifs. So being able to color them in a similar colorway made such a big difference. And I'll lay one of those here so that you can see how well they go. So these are going to go on like so, and they're right in a similar color, so they really go beautifully, and I'm so pleased with how it's coming out. I think it's going to be just the perfect accent for this focal point of the block. I'm at the point where I'm actually assembling all of the embellishments that we've made onto this quilt. I've already tacked down this doily. I just made some tiny little whip stitches about every 1/4 of an inch around it at places that seemed appropriate to do, and it looks like it's holding it really nicely. I had to pin it down pretty thoroughly. And so now I'm adding the bird, and I'm whip stitching around the bird here. I'm using a white beading thread and a smallish embroidery needle, and I'm just going around that. I've been under a time crunch, so I haven't filmed all the specific details of some of the finishing things that I've been working on. For this, I'm whip stitching it down about every 1/8 of an inch, similar to what we did when we actually put the bird onto the felt. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm catching both the bird and this background fabric and trying to make my stitches as invisible as possible while still hopefully holding securely. It's not a terribly difficult thing, it's just one of those little fiddly time-consuming things. But I'm so excited about it because it means I'm really nearing the finish line on this project. And that's good because I need to have it finished today. I'm coming around the bird here. Once I get to these feathery stitches, I'll be switching over to the blue thread just to make that a little bit easier, but I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take just some really tiny stitches right across the bottom of this bird, just so that the bird itself is all stitched down very thoroughly, and then we'll stitch those feathers. And I think with that, that's our last stitch to do the bird. And you can see here where I've gone all the way around the bird. For this tacking down, I just used a single thread rather than a doubled thread. I generally only use the doubled thread if I'm doing something that's really heavy duty or if I'm doing beads with it. There we go. So now I'm threaded with the blue thread, and I'm going to work on these feathers. And I can see where some of my threads are starting to come loose a little bit. So that's where I'm going to start, just so I can try and secure some of that down. I may go back at a later point and add some fray check to that. And what I'm really doing here is some little back stitching, and I'm trying to do it kind of in the area where there appeared to be a little bit of a pattern so that it's a little less visible. And I probably won't have every single thread tacked down, but hopefully it will be enough to keep those threads a little more stable and not look quite so fuzzy. So the idea with these feathers is I sort of like the way when I don't have it pinned that the tail kind of turns up. I'd like to leave that. So I'm going to be mostly tacking down these inner feathers here, the solid ones. And then on this lowest one, I'll tack just along, either just along the inside or just along the outside here of this inner one. And I'll leave the edges loose. Like I said, I like them turning. It gives it some dimension that adds interest. All right, well, let me keep stitching and I'll check back in with you once the stitching is done. So now we have our bird all tacked down. I love the way that stitching around those inner, more solid feathers kind of quilted it and made them stand up a little bit. I really love that effect from that. And the tail, and the fact that we still have our loose tail feathers coming up. So if you'll remember, I had taken our light pink leaf trim and I used a Sharpie marker to cover the stem. I used a gold color, and then I used a green Copic marker to color the leaves. And I really love the added look that this gives. I have actually got this pinned down so that it comes across the whole block, and I had one small bit of trim, and I'm going to go ahead and add that in right about there. I kind of like the way it carries the arch of the branch across and make it look like it shoots off, because that's the way branches grow. I actually wish I had a little bit more. I would add another one down in here or maybe up here. But this is what we have, so that's what I'm going to use for the time being. So my next job is to tack this down. Like the feathers, I want to leave the leaves loose. I want them to have a little bit of dimension, so I'm just going to be tacking down this stem along the way. Between the marker and the fact that it's a bonded, I believe a polyester or possibly a nylon fabric, it's a little stiff and it's kind of hard to get the needle through, so I'm actually going to use more of a couching technique. I thought about using the pearl cotton to tack it down, but it's too heavy, so then I opted for more beading thread. At first I thought I was going to use the brown, but it's actually too dark, and this gold color I think works much better for that. So I need to get a needle threaded, and we'll do that. But I still am going to use a little bit of the pearl cotton here because I would like to embroider the feet of this bird holding on to this branch. I think that's going to give it an added little bit of interest. Once we have our branch sewn on, I will come back and do that. I was not able to finish filming the completion of this central block due to time constraints, but I thought you would enjoy seeing these pictures of the finished central block and then the entire project. In the next day or so, I will be putting a post up on my blog, ivoryblushroses.com, about how I put this project together. There's only one more video to come in this challenge project series, and that is going to be a look at all of the different challenge projects that were completed. We'll also take a closer look at the winning block. Thank you for watching today's episode of Ivory Blush Roses Crazy Quilting and Beyond. Don't forget to subscribe, click on the bell to be notified of new episodes, give me a thumbs up, and I'd love to hear your comments on this bird block in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Happy stitching. Let's go create something beautiful.